Spoiler alert, you are not too late to the podcasting game. And 2023 is an epic time to start your dream podcast. Welcome, lovely, cozy person on the internet who has purposely decided to click on this video. Out of all of the tutorials and the how to start a podcast videos, you clicked on this one. And for that, my friend, I adore you and I salute you. And welcome to my channel, my fun little corner on the internet where we are all about the cozy pajama lifestyle and creating super duper fun and cozy content creator businesses. My name is Mia Brox, a fellow content creator, a huge introvert, and yes, we are now officially internet buddies. So hey there, hi there. I publish value-packed videos every single Wednesday, so make sure you subscribe and join the YouTube family. Cool? Cool. In this video, you are going to learn the exact steps you need to take in order to start and grow your very own podcast. How very exciting. I'm not going to complicate anything. I'm going to keep this short, sweet, and to the point, but most importantly, I'm going to give you my recommendations for starting a podcast. I'm not going to give you all of the recommendations out there. I'm personally going to share with you how I started my own podcast and how you can do the same. So goodbye, overwhelm. Too many options for equipment, all of that, we don't need it. Starting a podcast, I know it can feel a little bit overwhelming and complicated, and so I really don't want to add to that. After watching this video, you are going to walk away with actionable steps that you can implement to start your own podcast in the next hour, like literally the next hour. That's how easy it can be to start your own podcast, even as a complete newbie and a beginner. Because honey, I've got you covered. I really do. So consider this your ultimate guide to starting your own dream podcast. We are diving into all of the things. And when are we jumping in? Right now. But first, we must touch on why podcasting is so ridiculously amazing, and why you, my friend, are not late to the podcasting party. A party which I believe is perfectly suited for all introverts. No matter how introverted you are, this is a party that you're gonna wanna go to. You are not too late. There's still space. There's room for you and your podcast. If anyone ever tells you that the podcasting market is oversaturated, that person is very silly.
Enough of the silliness.
Because no, it's not too saturated. The podcasting world is only just beginning to pop. So let me hit you with some facts. I'm not gonna hit you, but I'm gonna give you some facts. Only around 450,000 podcasts are active in the whole wide world compared to the 51 million active YouTube channels. That is insane. So there's definitely room for you and tons of opportunity in the podcasting space. 62% of all Americans aged 12 and over have listened to a podcast in 2022. And according to the latest data, there are 464.7 million worldwide podcast listeners. And just this is a fun fact because I live in Sweden. Almost half of the whole entire population, so all ages, listen to podcasts. 47% of all people living in Sweden listen to podcasts. The number of people that listen to podcasts has increased by over 40 million just in the last year. And by 2025, global podcast listeners are expected to surpass 500 million. Let that sink in. There is opportunity. Having a podcast as a part of your content strategy is also really amazing for building a deep and meaningful relationship with your audience. It's a place where you get to go deeper with your audience on specific topics, share value, tell stories, and basically be their BFF, their best friend in their ear as they're doing life. It's also awesome for growing your community and really building your audience, aka bringing new people into your world, having new people find you online. And having a podcast is also great for acquiring customers. I hate that word acquiring. It just feels very corporate and that's really not my vibe. So what should we say? Basically, it is amazing for turning listeners into buyers and customers, and more importantly, email subscribers. So you can make money with your podcast. That's really what I'm trying to say here, and not just through sponsorships. And here's what's really great about podcasting. It is very, very extremely accessible to people. It's so easy to just press play on a podcast episode while you're multitasking and doing other things, going about your life, doing your dishes, hanging up some laundry, going for a walk, driving to work. It's very accessible to people, more so than YouTube. Whoops. But it is. Okay, I have 2 more perks to go, and then we're gonna dive into the exact steps that you need to take in order to start your podcast. But it is also amazing for boosting your credibility and your expertise within your niche. So really positioning you as a leader in your space. You're someone who knows what she's talking about, or he is talking about, or they're talking about. You basically know your shit. And people should definitely continue to binge and listen to your podcast because you know what you're talking about. It's easy, it's relatively inexpensive to set up, and here's the best part: you don't have to get camera ready. Unless you're doing a video show and also filming your podcast, which is definitely an option. But you can record in your PJs, no makeup, in your underwear, naked even. I mean, did someone just say cozy pajama lifestyle? I think they just did. And that's why, of course, naturally, I also have a podcast. The She Dreams All Day show. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and record a YouTube video about how to start your own podcast without having one of my own, without having the experience of my own. That would be very silly. So of course, I have a podcast. But enough about me. Let's talk about you and the steps that you need to take in order to start your podcast today. Step number 1, plan your dream potty. Yes, we're going with the word potty, not the toilet, the podcast. Maybe not potty. Plan your dream podcast. Man, oh man, I do love planning. Let's go. You need to plan out your strategy, your purpose, and the mission of your podcast. What is the goal of your podcast? What is it here to do, to teach people? You need to have an overall purpose with your podcast. That's the first thing that I want you to think about. And how is your podcast going to stand out from all of the other podcasts out there? This is, of course, going to be part of your branding, your personality, your vibe, but write it down. Really get clear on what your podcast is here to do for people. The next thing that you need to plan out and get clear on is your niche and your audience. Now, you might already have a niche and a target audience that you serve with your other content on Instagram or your blog or something like that. But if you don't have a niche yet, you need to do some market research. And what I mean by this is you go on Spotify, you go on iTunes, you search for keywords in your niche. So let's say that you are in the traveling niche, you would search for keywords within the traveling niche and check out other podcasts. Check out if there are podcasts within the niche that you want to consider. So you want to do your market research to make sure that there is an audience out there willing to listen to your podcast. There is a podcast for literally every single topic. Really, as Emma Chamberlain would say, anything goes. I thought that was quite clever. She has a podcast called Anything Goes. Next, you want to name your potty. Your podcast. Don't overthink this, but try and make it easy to spell, easy to search for, and don't overcomplicate it. Don't be all fancy schmancy with the name. You just want it to be a name that's easy for people to remember and to say out loud. And here's the thing, you can always rebrand and change the name of your podcast if you get sick of it or if you don't like the name anymore. It doesn't really matter, but you have to choose a name. Don't let this step stop you from launching your podcast. I would really hate, it would break my heart if this step is going to get in the way of you launching your dream podcast. So don't get stuck on this step. Just choose a name. Pretty please? Okay, got it? Great. Now let's move on to your formats. What kind of podcast will you be starting? Are you going to do a solo show where it's just you talking into a microphone? That's probably the easiest way to get started. Or are you going to do an interview-based type of show where you interview other guests? You can do a mix of both. I've done that. I've had people on my show, and I've also done a lot of solo episodes. Or are you going to be co-hosting? hosting with another person. This is just personal preference. It is totally up to you. It's a free country. And again, you can always change. You can mix it up. Another thing that I want you to think about is, are you going to do audio only, or are you going to also add the video element, as in you're going to film your podcasts? You can start out just with audio and then implementing video later on. But something that I want you to think about is, if you just hit play on your MacBook, just film it on your MacBook or your phone, or you don't need a fancy video setup, but just film yourself recording your podcast. It's an amazing way to repurpose content, to turn your podcast episodes into reels, TikToks, even just uploading it to YouTube, to really take advantage of what YouTube has to offer, which is SEO and search. So something to think about as you are considering what kind of format and style your podcast is going to be. Step number 2, content, baby. We are going to get clear on content, the topics, and 5 to 10 new episode ideas. That's what I want you to walk away with today. Now that you have your niche and your audience, you have the name of your podcast, the vibe, the strategy, the mission, and all of that good stuff, I want you to brainstorm 5 to 10 episode ideas and get clear on the title of that episode before you start outlining. If you're really stuck on how to get content ideas, make sure that you watch this video right here where we take a deep dive into finding content ideas. But when it comes to crafting the headline or the title of the episodes, I want you to think about what's going to make a person hit play on this episode. Is it piquing curiosity? Is it a clickable title? This is the same with blog posts, with email subject lines. The goal of your episode title is to get people to hit play. So you need to make sure that you are creating click-worthy titles that are suited for your target audience. You want to make it specific to your person. The next part, once you've got your 5 to 10 ideas and you've got the title of the episode, you need to start outlining or scripting the episodes. So doing some research on the topic that you're going to talk about in the episodes. The reason I suggest that you do this is to avoid rambling. I know it's really, really easy to just want to pour your heart out and just ramble on, but we want to think about who we are creating for. We're not creating for ourselves. We're creating something for our audience. And to be able to create something super valuable, and unless you are a huge influencer and people just want to hear you ramble on about a random topic, there needs to be some structure to your episode. So having an intro where you introduce the topic, and then, have the main, key takeaways, the meat of the content, if you will, and then an outro at the end. So what I like to do is start out with the title. I do this with my YouTube videos as well. And I have the talking points, the main takeaways that I want my listener or my viewer to walk away with. I'll list that out, and then I will start building out the video script or the episode script. The last part of content is to really get organized. I know I sound like a broken record, but getting yourself seriously organized is the best thing that you can do for your business and your mental health, I want to say, as a content creator. I'm such a nerd when it comes to getting organized. I use ClickUp. I have workflows and projects for my podcast, for my Instagram, and my YouTube. When it comes to your podcast, I want you to get clear on what are all the steps that you need to complete in order to get an episode from just an idea in your head to a published episode, from an idea to air. First, you need to research the topic, get clear on the title, outline it, fill in the outline, record, edit, create social media assets, publish, upload to your host, etc., etc. So create workflows for yourself to make your life really easy. And also, while you're at it, create a content calendar for your podcast. And try and be really consistent with your content calendar. Decide on the day of the week you will post, the time you will post your podcast, and try and stay consistent. I suggest that you opt for weekly episodes, but if this doesn't work for you, you can choose to be consistent in any way that you want. You can do it bi-weekly, monthly. The bottom line is it has to work for you and your schedule. Step number 3, the assets and the equipment. Let's start with the fun stuff, shall we? Which is creating your podcast cover, your artwork. Because here's the thing, the cover art art for your podcast is really, really important. Most people make a decision about whether to listen to your podcast based on the look and the feel of your artwork. I know I do this. I know a lot of other people do this as well. So we want to make sure that it's aesthetically pleasing to your target audience and that it pops and that it looks really good. The way that I have created my artwork is by just going to Canva. So let's go into Canva, shall we? And create an artwork. Create a design. Type in podcast. There we go. And then you can obviously have a look through all of their templates. They have tons of templates which you can base your own design around, but we are just gonna make it really simple. We're gonna use one of my branding colors and we're gonna upload a photo of myself, this one right here, and then click on edit image, remove background. And this is gonna make your photos a lot more professional looking just by removing the background. There we go. And what I like to do is create a little outline of the image. So the way that I do that is click on shadows under effects, click on glow, and then I want it to be white. Gonna decrease the blur a little bit, up the transparency to 100 and increase the size. There we go. And now all you have to do is add the title of your podcast. She dreams all day. I'm going through this fairly quickly, but I just want to show you how easy it is to create a podcast artwork in Canva. So try and make the text as big as possible so that people can see it on their Spotify and in iTunes because it's going to appear a lot smaller. So you want to make sure that people can actually read what it says. It's actually looking really good. There we go. A podcast artwork. How freaking easy peasy lemon squeezy was that? And fun. All right, moving on. For your artwork, you want to use your brand colors and your brand fonts and a beautiful photo of yourself. Now onto the equipment. I know there are lots of options out there, and as I said in the beginning, I really don't want to overwhelm you here. So I'm going to share my recommendations for microphone, for software, for hardware, for all of that, and just really make it as easy as possible for you to make a decision. Because here's the thing, you really don't need a lot of equipment. If you wanted to, and if you don't have a huge budget, you can literally start your podcast just by recording a voice memo on your phone and airdropping it to your computer and then editing it on GarageBand and uploading it. It really can be that simple. Although if you do have a little budget, I really recommend that you invest in some type of microphone just because the audio quality is going to be a lot better. And as a huge nerd when it comes to music and audio, that's what I recommend. But if you don't have any money right now and you really just want to start your podcast, get it off the ground, use this thing. Like honestly, it works. And then you can of course up level and invest in a microphone later on. What I'm saying is there's no excuse for you not to start your podcast because if you have an iPhone, you can start a podcast. The microphone that I currently use is the Shure SM7. So I use this with an external sound card. If you have the money to invest in a sound card and this microphone, I highly recommend it, but you don't need it if you're just starting out. But I did want to share what I currently use. A microphone that I think is really, really great and that I actually started out with, it was the Blue Yeti microphone. This is a microphone that you can connect to your computer by USB, which makes it a lot easier to work with and record. Another microphone that I've used and loved up until I invested in the Shure microphone is Audio-Technica. What is it called? AT2020. This one's also really, really great. Headphones, just use what you have. You don't need to invest in fancy schmancy headphones. Just use your AirPods or use your iPhone headphones. It doesn't matter. Use whatever you have. You're good to go. Software. What I use is Logic Pro. I use this because, as I said, I'm a huge music and audio nerd and have done a lot of music production myself. And so that's why I have that software on my computer. And so I just use it. But basically, it's a more advanced version of GarageBand. And GarageBand is free. If you have a Mac, just use GarageBand. You don't need Logic Pro. You can also just record on Zoom. When you record on Zoom, you also get video. You can also use something called Zencaster. This is an online software where you can record and edit your podcasts. So that's basically what you need: a software, pair of headphones, and some sort of microphone. Now, I know you might be thinking about the jingle, the music. How do I create an intro and outro? Now, I'm thinking I'm going to create a little tutorial of how to do this in more depth, but basically what you can do is you can head to Artlist or Epidemic Sound to get royalty-free music, download a tune that you dig, and that's kind of, your vibe, bring it into GarageBand and record a voiceover at that. And there you go. There you have an intro and an outro. Oh my goodness gracious me, we are on fire, and we are on to step 4, recording and hosting your podcast. It's all happening.
It's all happening.
By the way, Almost Famous is my favorite movie. Have you seen it? Let me know in the comments. Firstly, when it comes to recording your podcast, if you don't have a fancy schmancy, that's the 3rd time I've said that in this video, but if you don't have a studio, which I assume most people don't, you want to make sure that you sit in a soft room. And what I mean by this is sit on a carpet, sit under a blanket, have lots of pillows and blankets around you when you record. This is going to really increase the quality of the audio. And plus, cozy, real cozy, with all the cushions and the blankets, and it's perfect. You were meant for this. Now onto the hosting. So this is you getting your podcast onto iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all of that. How do you do that? The thing is, you don't need to manually upload your podcast to Spotify, to iTunes, to Google Play, to Amazon, to YouTube, all of the things. Your host will do that for you. Your host will distribute your podcast for you. Once you upload an episode to your host, you schedule it, and then your host is going to distribute it to all of these platforms. So that's what a host does. Now there are tons to choose from: Podbean, Buzzsprout, Anchor, Libsyn, and then there's Acast, which I use. All of these are amazing. Some of them are free. Some of them cost a little something per month, but what I use is Acast, and I really, really love it. So I just want to take you inside of my Acast just to show you how easy it is to upload an episode. So here we go. By the way, I'm not sponsored or anything. I just want to recommend what I use because I love what I use. But this is how I upload a new podcast episode. So these are all of my episodes. All I have to do once I log in is click on plus new. I just upload the audio here. I write down what the title is going to be, if there's a subtitle, if I have a blog post linked to this episode, I can include that here, the season and the episode number. And then this is where I write down the description, and I really recommend that you add your freebies and a little description of the episode. And then next, publish settings. And then all I have to do is schedule this episode for when I want it to go live and hit publish. All right, final step. Step number 5, growing your podcast. You need to have some kind of strategy for growing your podcast. The first thing is optimizing your episodes for SEO so that people can find your podcast when they search on Spotify, on iTunes, on Google, and all of the places. So you want to optimize the title of your episode, the description, the title of your podcast show, and the keywords that you choose. So those are the things that I recommend that you optimize for SEO. Make sure that you're talking about your podcast on your Instagram, on TikTok, on your website, your blog, your YouTube show. Make it really clear that you have a podcast show, and your audience, they must check it out when they check you out. Repurpose your podcast content. So if you're filming yourself as you're recording a podcast episode, repurpose it. Turn it into Reels, TikToks, Instagram stories to promote your new podcast episodes. This is typically called an audiogram, and it's really easy to create in Canva. And my favorite way to grow podcast is your blog. So create a blog post for every single podcast episode that you put out there. Drive traffic to that episode by driving traffic from Google and Pinterest to your blog. And another great way to grow your podcast is by having other people on and getting them to share your podcast with their audience. Utilizing Google search and Pinterest search and collaborating with other people is honestly the best way to grow your podcast and your business in general. Ooh, my jolly gosh. I know we've gone through a lot in this video, and I feel like I really could create even more videos all about podcasting and go into more detail. So let me know in the comments what topics you would like for me to dig a little deeper on for you. But I hope you're feeling really excited about starting your very own podcast, your dream podcast. Like, I am very excited for you. I have butterflies in my stomach. Which could be a little much, but I don't care. That's how much I care about you starting your dream podcast and having success as a content creator. If you're an introvert or just a human being who wants to learn how to create content on the interwebs to build an audience with confidence, all that good stuff, you must check out my free masterclass, Shine. I'm gonna leave a link in the you-know-where, the description, but you got that, you got that. And now, let's take a deep breath. What I wish for you is one, that you of course start your podcast like today. That would be amazing. But two, that you go out into the world, wherever you are, and you have the most amazing day. Because you are pretty darn amazing. I mean, you just watched this entire video from beginning to end. That deserves some love. I appreciate you so very much. And in fact, I love you dearly for being here, for watching this video, for supporting me, and for the fact that you're about to embark on your very own podcast journey. Let me know in the comments below if you are going to start your podcast now. Do it, do it, do it. Toodles and cozy vibes. Peace out.